Okay, peace to the viewers, peace to the viewers. Welcome to the study session. Um, so we'll actually start. Well, I'll make a whole nother video for this. I'll just make a whole nother video. So we'll start at chapter 2 of the Act of Algeciras. But before we start at chapter 2, I'll go into some background. Um, so again, being that this is the start of the video, in the first video, we ran over chapter 1, which encompasses what the policy enforcers or the police are to do. Okay, how they're paid, their rank, everything, right? So in chapter 2, it goes into, just as it says on the screen, the monitoring and repression of smuggling of the weapons. Okay, so this is, of course, in regards to policy enforcers as well. Also, for anybody else who falls in line in chapter 2, which we'll get more into later. But before we start this chapter 2, let's talk a little bit about some background, about the historical background of this act, this treaty, this Moroccan legislation. Why is it an act of Algeciras? Why is it a treaty? Because in international law, all conventions, acts, and treaties are considered treaties in international law. What is international law? International law is an independent and separate system of law from all other governments, state governments. So international law is its own system. It's not the United States documents, it's not France documents, it's not one state government's documents. It's a certain system, independent system. It's all about one thing, enforcing treaties, right? So now that we got that understood, gotta take those notifications off. We can get a little bit more into the background then into chapter 2. So this Act of Algeciras, how did this come about? Why did this come about? Well, Germany had basically initiated this whole thing. Okay. Reason being is that they seen that France and England and many other nations were already one step ahead of them, Germany. They seen that France and England were already ahead of them as far as colonization, right? They were out colonizing other lands. France began to colonize Algiers, which is a part of the Moroccan Empire, right? Germany played chess, not checkers. What did they do? They said, hey, since Morocco is the land of milk and honey, we're not just talking about over there in Africa. That's the kingdom of Morocco. Morocco is the land of milk and honey, and everybody got their eyes on that. Well, if nobody can get any, and I'm talking like I'm Germany, right? If we can't get it, then nobody gonna get it. So let's set up some provisions of laws. Let's get in Morocco's ear since they need help right now, and help them establish their independence, keep their independence, so nobody gets it, right? So that's basically how this act or treaty came about. Okay, one aspect of it, a good portion of it. So in chapter 2, it talks about the repression and smuggling of weapons. Okay, and again, this is in relation to the policy enforcers. It says are prohibited in all the extent of the empire of the sharifs, except in the cases specified in Articles 14 and 15, in importation of the trade of the weapons of war, parts of weapons, charged ammunition, or not in charge of all species, powders, sapeltre, gun cotton, nitroglycerine, and all compositions intended exclusively for the manufacture of ammunition. Okay, so in order to fully understand this, we got to read 14 and 15, right? So it says in 14, the explosive necessary to industry and public works, to that public works again, could nevertheless be introduced. A payment taken in forms indicated in Article 18 will determine the conditions in which will be carried out in out their importation. Article 15. Weapons, parts of weapons, and ammunition intended for the troops of His Majesty of the Sharifs will be allowed after the achievement of the following formalities. A declaration signed to the Moroccan Minister for the War, stating a number of species of the supplies of this kind ordered from foreign industry will have to be presented to the legation of the country of origin, which will affix its visa there, which will affix its visa there. So it's talking about them keeping track of the ammunition, the weapons, etc., under the 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 governance of the Moroccan Minister of Affairs, not Minister of Affairs, but Moxon, right? And so all under Moroccan legation, right? Because it's talking about the legation of the country of origin. What legation? What origin? What country? Morocco. So no matter what guns is here, you gotta abide by these rules still, even in times of war. Now we getting into so-called the two-faced side of things, because yes, law is a powerful thing, but we all know that we have what's called outlaws, or people who decide to go against the law. This is where counterintelligence comes into play, right? Because we can fall for the whole, oh, they got guns, they got harp, they got this and this and that weapon, they got that, all this secret type of weapons, military weapons, etc. But we must understand this divine setup. Okay. Again, as I stated in the first video, this is not our war to fight. Okay. But the war we must fight is more so in ourselves with this cognitive dissonance, right? So we can use this counterintelligence. So it goes to say the taking out of bond of the cases parcel containing the weapons and ammunition delivered pursuant to the ordering of the Moroccan government will be operated on production 1, the declaration specified above, 2, bill of lading indicating the number, the weight of parcels, the number, and the species of the weapons and ammunition which they contain. This document will have to be aimed by the legislation of the country of origin, which will mark with the back the successive quantities previously cleared. The visa will be refused as from the moment when the command will have been completely delivered. Okay, so it's all given command for whoever is uh, in possession of these weapons to report to the Moroccan government, right? So things can be properly followed according to the law. Okay. So again, if this is one treaty enforcing all of these laws so far, okay, just think about after being acknowledged as a state government, taking United States of America to court, right? And then being able to force these laws through your own state government, but you got to enact them, right? So this is all as long as you have counterintelligence, right? This is how Allah walks with you and protects you. Because real quick before we get into 16, what is a treaty? A treaty is a covenant. If you look in biblical terms, uh, etc. A treaty means covenant. So when they say a covenant is a promise between you and God, or these people and God, it's a protection. God's promise to his people, right? This is, if you want to call it your higher self, right? Or Allah, walking with you, protecting you. Okay. So this is, again, this is not our war to fight. As long as we use counterintelligence, who we thought we would be fighting, which is the United States, will be actually fighting other nations and even their own citizens once they find out what's going on, right? And I'm talking about the sovereign citizens. And I'm talking about the ones who can't go back to nowhere at the end of the day, but want to shun the United States government and want it to tear down, right? So let's talk about Article 16. It says the importation of the weapons of hunting and luxury, parts of weapons, cartridges, charged and non-charged, is also prohibited. It will be able, however, being authorized, one, for strictly personal needs of the importer, two, for the provisioning of the armories authorized in accordance with Article 18. Okay, so it's explaining that it's for personal needs, right? And for the armories authorized in accordance to 18, which we'll get to. Okay. Article 17. The weapons and ammunition of hunting or luxury will be allowed for the strictly personal needs of the importer on the production of a license delivered by the representative of the Moxon in Tangier. If the importer is foreign, the license will be established only on the request of legation which it concerns. Which, with regard to the ammunition of hunting, each license will relate to the maximum of 1,000 cartridges, or the supplies necessary to the manufacture of 1,000 cartridges. The license will be given only to people not having incurred any correctional judgment. Okay. So again, it's talking about the being delivered to the representative of Tangier. Remember, things are being deposited at Tangier. Why? Because that's the stronghold of international law at that time, just like United Nations is today, right? So, and again, remember, it says if the importer is foreign, the license will be established only by the requesting of legation of which it concerns. So, again, you must weigh out the law, okay? Uh, and what did it say in 16? It said for personal needs and for armories in accordance to Article 18. Well, it is Article 18. The trade of the weapons of hunting and luxury, not stripped, not striped, of foreign manufacture, stripped, of foreign manufacture, as the ammunition, which are referred to it as the regulated, as soon as the circumstances allow it, by Sharifian decisions, taken in accordance with the opinion of the diplomatic courts in Tangier, ruling in the majority of the voices. It it will be the same for the decisions having for the goal to suspend or restrict the exercise of this trade. Only the people having obtained a special and temporary license, Moroccan government will be allowed to open and exploit flows and weapons of ammunition of hunting. The license will be granted only on written request on the interested party. So only on written request of the interested party, right? Supported of a favorable opinion of the legation which it concerns. So the law has to back it up, right? Payments taken in the form indicated at the paragraphs first of this article will determine the number of the flows which can be opened in Tangier, and possibly in the ports which will be indicated later on. They will fix the formalities imposed on the importation of the explosives for the use of industry and public works. Okay. Um, so nothing is hidden for the use of public works, right? Of the weapons and ammunitions intended for the provisioning of the flows, as well as the maximum quantities which could be preserved in deposit. In the event of infringement with the law regulations, the license could be withdrawn temporarily or on a purely final basis without prejudice to other sorrows incurred by the delinquents. Incurred by the delinquents. Delinquents. Right. So already we're noticing people right now, real time, out of law, right? How are they referring to as delinquents? Because we already know there's going to be two sides to things, right? Somewhere down the line. That's why we have consular courts. That's why we have counterintelligence. That's why there's other nations. That's why this is not our fight, right? So, okay. So it's talked about their license being stripped. So whose license being stripped? The policy enforcers. What is this doing? Following law. What's really going on? Somebody's destabilizing because they haven't followed the law, right? So again, when does this come into play? When ICJ enforces things, right? Any introduction of Article 19, any introduction or attempt of introduction, the prohibited goods will give place to their confiscation, and moreover, with the sorrows and fines below, which will be pronounced by the court of jurisdiction. Article 20. The introduction or attempt at introduction by a port open to the trade or a customs house will be punished. 1. Of the fine of from 500 to 2,000 pestas, and the additional fine equalizes with 3 times the value of the imported goods. 2. Of the imprisonment of 5 bear at 1 year, or of the two penalties only. So it's talking about just money right here, and what's to happen. Again, this is different in today's time. 500, 2,000 pestas is not $500 and $2,000 in real time. So Article 21. The introduction or attempt at introduction, apart from a port open to the trade or of a customs house, will be punished. One of a fine from 1,000 to 5,000 pesos for and a excuse me, and of an additional fine equalizes with three times the value of the imported goods. Two, of a 3 months imprisonment to 2 years, or of the two penalties only. Okay, so we're talking about jail time. 22. The fraudulent sale, the concealment, and the hawking of goods prohibited by the payment will be punished sorrows enacted in Article 20. Okay, so this is all encompassing right there, a nice little punishment, but that we have to translate into modern time. Okay, 23. The accomplices of the offenses envisaged in Articles 20, 21, and 22 will be liable to the same sorrows as the principal's authors. The elements characterizing complicity will be appreciated according to the legation seized court. So the Moxons will appreciate this. When it there have some index serious make suspect that a ship wet in a port open with trade transport for their introduction with Morocco of weapon, of ammunition, or of some goods prohibit. The agent of custom of the Sharif must announce these index with authority of consular qualified, so the consular courts must announce this, so that one proceed with the assistance of delegate of custom of the Sharif with investigation, checking, or visit that it judge necessary. So whenever the times of investigation or checking, it must be in cahoots, it must be in alignment with not only Moroccan law, but it must be communicated with the the consular courts, right? The Qazi and the rest of the officials. What's going on? So every time something is getting searched, we're talking about, remember in article in chapter 1, we was talking about um, the inspector general taking down inspectation or not inspectations, reports, excuse me, every year, right? Well, it's not only every year. We talking about the ports, right? We got to shake down things. We got to keep track. How many guns you got? What you here for? Can you even have them? Right? So, where was I? Where was I? Oh, in the case of introduction or attempted introduction by sea of prohibited goods, apart from open port or trade. Did I just read this? Did I just read it? Okay, no. In the case of introduction or attempt at introduction by sea of prohibited goods, apart from a port open to the trade, the Moroccan customs will be able to lead the ship to the open port, to the port to be given nearest to the consular authority, which will be able to seize it and maintain the data entry until the payment of the marked fines. However, the data entry of the ship will have to be raised in a state of authority, as this measurement will not block the legal instruction on consignment of the maximum amount of the fine between the hands of the consular authority or in bond solvent to pay it, accepted by the customs. Okay, so basically, when they come in a port, they're to go to the nearest consular authority, right? They're to seize it. They're to take data entry, right? Information, jot down what's going on. So, and it even says at the end, if you have customs, right? These customs must be in conformity with the law in order for you. So if you say, wait a minute, I'm doing this, what you're saying must again be in conformity with law. Okay, de jure law, international law. Moxon will preserve the confiscated goods. It is for own use, if they can be useful to him, provided that the subjects of the empire cannot get some. That is to say, make or sell them in the foreign country. This means of transport to ground could be confiscated and will be sold with profit of the treasury of the Sharifs. So what are we talking about here? Well, Moors say a lot of times, you know, we need an army. That's true. We need a military. Yeah, that's true. If we're going to talk about having a government, then again, we cannot jump 10 steps ahead without taking the first step, right? In order for us to have a military, it's not we dependent on everybody one night to be so fed up to all of a sudden we have an army just because everybody woke up and got fed up and started to have a revolution. Like it's not gonna happen that way. It's not gonna happen in the aspect of we're just all of a sudden unified. To depend on unification alone, just raw unification, just you get up, something fed the people up, and now you decide to unify. That is not going to happen. Unification is going to always come by way of law, order, uniformity, right? Uniformity is structure. It's not just, you know, unite, right? Uniform. To be on the same accord is uni, right? Uniting. We all have to be on one accord. That's like giving everybody reparations and there's no government. You're asking for purge season, right? So what's going on here is the confiscation of arms, of weapons. Okay. So before we build our government, we have to work with real time, enacting laws which will do what? Destabilize theirs as we develop ours. And let's just think about it. Just think about this. Even if you want to say this is war, right? If they're if they're the people with the guns, the government with the guns, and we're the government without the guns, what's the first thing that would naturally happen if somebody's pointing a gun at you? Figure out how to not get it pointed at you, right? So what do if you're using law? Destabilize the guns by using the law, right? They don't have a gun at your face now, but use an analogy. If they're the people with the guns and we're not, what's the first move? Destabilize the weapons, right? So let's see, 26, I believe. It says Moxon will preserve the confiscated goods is for own use, if they use to be useful for him, provided that the subjects of the empire cannot get some. So, damn, did we just read this? Yeah, we read that. The sale of the weapon reformed by the Moroccan government will be prohibited in all the extent of the empire of the Sharifs. Premiums, Article 28, premiums to be taken on the amount of the marked fines will be allotted to the indicators which will have brought to the discovery of the prohibited merchandise and the agents which will have operated the data entry of it. These premiums will be thus allotted after deduction, if it is necessary, of the expenses of the lawsuit, a third to be distributed by the customs between the indicators, a third with the agents having seized the goods, a third with the Moroccan treasury. Okay, so let's pause right there, right quick. We're talking about the expenses of the lawsuit. What are we doing? We're going to take the United States to court. It's a lawsuit. So what happens in this treaty? Well, so far it says a third will be distributed by the customs within the indicators, a third with the agents having seized the goods, and a third with the Moroccan treasury. So this is all where the money is going in the government, right? Excuse me. If the data entry were operated without intervention of the indicator, half of the fines would be allotted to the seizing agents and other half to the treasury of the Sharifs. Again, more distribution of expenses, okay, for the other party, which is rent for us. The Moroccan customs authorities will have to announce directly to the diplomatic agents or consular to the infringement with the present payment made by their nationals, so that those are continued in front of the court jurisdiction. The same infringements made by Moroccan subjects will be submitted directly by the customs with the Sharifian authority. A delegate of the customs will be charged to follow the procedure of the hanging business in front of the various jurisdictions. Okay, so we're talking about the Moroccan customs authority, Moroccan authorities directing to the diplomatic agents or the consular of the infringements, right? So we all talking about the consular, the Moxen. What is that? The Moroccan government, the different parts of the Moroccan government, right? The consular representing the Kazi, which is the judge. And it says those are to continue in front of the court of jurisdiction. Okay. Now we have this term, you see, Moroccan subjects. Now, for those who have read the France versus United States of America international court case, you'll see the term Moroccan subjects a lot, right? Now, again, in that France versus United States of America court case, this term more subjects, that's the exact term, more subjects, you'll see that the United States of America has what's called capitulation regime over these more subjects, which basically means that they have jurisdiction over more subjects. Why? The whole reason France had to take United States of America to court, and you don't see Morocco nowhere saying anything in that case in 1952. People like, where the Sultan? Well, we had no authority to speak for us. It was as if the government was disappeared. It just didn't have no say so. So people depending on the Sultan to do something, thinking we still got to petition the Sultan. When the Sultan then said, skip you, who's actually a king of King Morocco. In 1952, he said, skip you. In 1956, they became their own state government called the Kingdom of Morocco. So basically, Muhammad V, real quick, before we finish this, Muhammad V had met up with several presidents of the United States of America for several years. In these meetings, it was agreed that Sultan Muhammad V, as long as he doesn't say anything in the court case coming up, right, that the United States of America promises that they'll be able to create their own state, their own government. Because remember, this Treaty of Peace and Friendship between who? Morocco, the Sultan of Morocco, and the United States of America. Well, they just compromised the Sultan. So now what? Well, in 1952, or excuse me, 1912, France had became the protectorates over Moroccan affairs because we was falling, right? So being that the Sultan in 1912, around that time earlier, kept asking for loans, kept asking for money from France, etc. It was like, look, we are protectors, fam. Okay, we got you. Now the intent behind that, who knows, right? Look at what France is doing to Haiti. The intent behind that, who knows? But let's keep studying because, let's finish this concept. So the Sultan, right, or France, excuse me, they became the protectors of Morocco. 1912, the Treaty of Fez, Article 6, right? In 1952, in the 1950s, France said, look, we take the United States of America to court because they acting like we not the protectorates over more subjects. They acting like they the protectorates, right? So in 1952, court case comes. One of the things that was decided was that United States of America must relinquish jurisdiction, right? But who was there to enforce that? It was supposed to be the Moroccan government, but he just got compromised. So years and years went past from 1912 to 1950, and the United States of America just keep building up on this land while over there in Africa, they got their own problems. They was tired of France being on their neck. So the United States of America said, look, I know you tired of France. France is on our necks too, because honestly, what they're saying is if more subjects are under the protection of France, then that means what are we? Under the protection of France, right? So they didn't want to get checked like that. So what happened? Well, the Sultan was tired of France, and the United States of America was tired of France. So they said, look, we got a treaty called the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. You in the tight position, I'm in the tight position, right? If you do not say anything in this case coming up, we promise to support your will, your ambition, and agree with you to become your own third state party. Meanwhile, on this land, more subjects, right, will suffer, will pay the consequences how they pay the consequences until they create a Moroccan authority. So last article, Article 30. In the area border of Algeria, the application of the payment of the smuggling of weapons will remain the exclusive business of France and Morocco, in the same way the application of the payment of the smuggling of the weapons in the Rif and in general the area's uh, borders of the possession Spanish will remain el business exclusive of Spain and Morocco. So we're talking about smuggling weapons in relation to Spain, in relation to France and Morocco. Simply put. Okay. So actually, this is chapter 3 is what I really want to get into, but I'll start another video for another time for that. And I'm honestly wanting to discuss other matters outside of this treaty, because even though this treaty is helpful, there's still uh, can we call it? There's still dimensions or spaces in between that we must understand. You know, so if you like, we can uh, we can go into any questions or comments that you have, or we can also get off topic as well. Because if you don't have any questions, then um, I'm going to just go into exactly what we need to do. Peace, Mo. Peace, y'all.
Islam, Islam.
How you feeling, man?
I'm blessed more. How about yourself?
I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good.
All is well. Yes, sir.
My body telling me to wind down, but I kind of want to get a workout in, so I'm about to tweak up when I get done with this.
Sure.
But so if nobody has any questions or comments in relation to that treaty, we can get into some other aspects, some more immediate aspects in regards to our solutions. Um, so what we must do again? We're gonna go back to the basics, right? Statehood is important, so we're not stateless, right? So in order for us to understand the first the instructions of how do we create a state, how do we establish a state, what is a state, the basis of state first before we move anywhere else. And I feel like I gotta talk about this again because it's been a few videos since I talked about this. But so a state is made up of four things. These four things can be found in a document, an international law document called the Montevideo Convention, Rights and Duties of a State.
Okay.
In Article 1, it says a state is a permanent population. So that's one out of the four things, permanent population. Let me go straight to the actual document, actually. Well, let me just, let's see. Okay. So in this Montevideo Convention, Rights and Duties of the State, Article 1, it says the state is a person, right? It's seen as a person of international law and possesses the following qualifications. So it says it's a permanent population, a defined territory, a government, and capacity to enter in relations with other states. So based off of who is and who is not a state, we can weigh who's moving like that and who's not moving like that, just based off of this definition. So let's start from the top right quick. It says a state is a person, right? This is part and parcel. But to make it not just mean a person, because a person just can't be a state itself. You have a state of mind, right? But a state is also a government. You can't be all branches of government by itself, right? So this is part and parcel. A government is what? Three branches of government, right? We got to learn from the Europeans. We got the executive, we got the legislative, we got the executive, we got the judicial, right? We got the state constitutions, we got state flags, state seals. That's what all these state governments have, right? So this is our own vine and fig tree that Noble Drew Ali was talking about, right? So government and people that can, or states that can enter in relations with other states. So basically, we can't be organizations calling ourselves governments and saying this is the government we need when we're actually in somebody else's state government, right? That can't fly, because that that setup will not be able to enter in relations with other states. You can't do treaties with other state governments, right? The Moorish Science Temple of America is a religious organization. It's a theocratic government in somebody else's state government, i.e., the United States of this acting like the United States of America. So really, it's incorporated in another corporation, pretending to be a state government. So that setup is what Noble Drew Ali had to do because there was nothing else to do. Now, granted, he did attempt to write a constitution because at this time the international law was not done growing. Okay, you had the Act of Algeciras that came out in 1906. It told you in Article 121 that states need state constitutions, right? But guess what? This state constitution and how a state constitution is set up wasn't fully developed. It wasn't fully explained. Therefore, other treaties came about, international law treaties, conventions, etc. Right? So Noble Drew Ali, when they say Noble Drew Ali brought us everything, take it and save yourselves. And then on the other hand, they say the half has not been told. Well, which one is it? Because if it brought you everything, you would think, well, let's just do everything that he did. Well, it actually was, he brought the tools, all the tools we needed. It's up to us to build the house. That's why the half has not been told. What is the other half? International law, right? So it's disrespect to think that Noble Drew Ali didn't know about these treaties. But we got to think about where COINTELPRO came into play. How could they have even came into play? By hiding these treaties, right? It's so many more are not aware of other Moroccan treaties, but they'll read books like it's a book called something like Mer's Treaties, going into several treaties, but it don't click for some reason due to misinformation being pounded several times, right? That there are other more Moroccan treaties. You know what I'm saying? So it's the we know it's just the misinformation that got everybody's vision foggy. It's not that you don't know. And when it comes to international law, of course, some people are just learning this. But when a lot of this stuff, half of this stuff is just knocking off the misinformation. So there we can see what state is. Okay, this state, and I made a video called The Metaphysics of International Law. Because look at this definition. The state is a person. And people waiting for Jesus to come out the air. He's a person. Save the fucking day. Right? This is so-called Jesus taking the wheel. This is the Merkabah that people talk about. How people, your Merkabah can exercise full powers of your aura, mind, body, soul, etc. This is full powers. Exercising full powers in international law. So this is the actual induction of the frequency that has been missing for so many years, right? In which that besides the metaphysical aspects, we have to fix our eyes to see in law how spirituality works. What type of law? International law, because that's the highest law. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of decluttering. It's even a lot of Moors that I'm actually, man, hmm,
Wow.
I should get into it, but um, it's a lot of Moors. I ain't gonna say it's a lot of Moors, but it's a group of Moors. I say that have taken this international perspective, this international avenue of statehood, and it's just agent vibe all over it, basically. In which that they're being called out, of course, by the de jure Moors who already are established, etc. Um, in which our documents we sent in. I know that I said last week, but we had problems editing our documents, so they'll be sent in this week. So they will be realized as Meru State Republic, acknowledged, excuse me, as Meru State Republic. Um, so more about, okay, let's talk about this. Matter of fact, let's talk about this because I want to stay at the basics of not only law but energy, spirituality. This. Let me find the document. Let me just find it. There's a picture of Noble Drew Ali carrying the woman. Oh, here, there it is. Right, it's a picture of Noble Drew Ali. I'm trying to find a better one. Okay, here we go. Noble Drew Ali carrying the woman out of the water, which shares the cares of the world, onto the rock of salvation. What rock of salvation? Morocco. That rock. Right? Out of the waters, admiralty, in onto the land, our land, right? Morocco, salvation. But what is he carrying the woman for? Well, if we not only just take the metaphysical aspect, of course we know that the feminine and the divine and all that type of stuff, right? People even had the whole black woman as God phase just to go get some pussy. People have been through that. That's another story for another day. But as far as the lawful standpoint, we're talking about merging the metaphysical aspect with law. What does this mean? Well, when you look at the term legislation or the term legislative, legislative is the most important part of a government. Why? Because that's the group of people who make the laws. If there's no laws, the judge can't do the job, the governor can't do their job, policy enforcement can't do their job, nobody can do their job. Because there's nothing to enforce. There's nothing to enact upon. There's nothing there, right? But when we talking about who else makes laws, the woman, length, angle, width. Well, when we look at, let's see, when we look at the etymology of legislation, what is that? The enacting of laws. It also means bearing of a law. Legislator is a lawgiver, a maker of laws. It also means born, brought, carried, to carry, to bear children, to bear children. I don't bear children. I don't do that. So we talking about women. So when the women rise, the nation rise. What does that mean? Not just any women. We ain't just talking about a woman who found out about memes and know how to write or know how to write what they call them things, affirmations on paper and throw it away the next morning. Like we ain't talking about just any woman. We ain't just talking about any mother. Like we're not talking about just somebody who just births a child. Like there's plenty of women who just do that. But we're talking about women who do not only that, but make laws in the actual government. What type of women are these? These are the actual priests, the priest, what they call it, the priestesses. They had other word for it, priestesses, but they called them priestesses. So these were, the most ancient of the ancient, the most mysterious of the mysteries type of people. Because when it came to government, the priests and the officials were known to be one and the same, or at least very close related. So when it comes to just the etymology of legislator, we're talking about not only a maker of laws, but a bearer, a, someone who bears children, carries children. Okay. So when the women rise in their proper perspective in law, then the nation will rise. Why? Because everybody else in the government can enforce what they put down on the table. Right? So we have a legislative branch, which is the most important part of the government, right? To fit the woman, the mom, the mother, the womb. Then we have the enforcers, i.e., the men. This doesn't mean that you can't have a man in the legislative branch, right? I'm just saying by definition that's what that means. But there is no international law saying that you can't have a man in a, you see what I'm saying, in a legislative branch. Do what you got to do. If you only have a few people and all of them in, do what you got to do. You see, a woman can be a wazir, which is a president. They can be a governor. They can be a judge. Do what you got to do. But as far as making everything make sense, right? If you can, I say do it, right? So some of you may have seen Ras Mariah Bay's video about the woman um, the woman running the household, right? That's what she was coming, getting, aiming at. Again, this is from the book uh, Political, what is it? Political Science, I believe. Principles of Political Science. It says the legislative is more important, indeed, the fundamental function of the government, right? So this is just bringing up some points. So, and I just want to show you guys that. Um, so we gotta, just look at everything in a subsequential order and just not only take our time with it when it comes to the metaphysical aspect, because, well, I'm gonna end this video here.